Bonjour everyone, and welcome back to the Waves of Your Soul. I am your humble French tarot reader Marine, and today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects to talk about on my channel, which is tarot and oracle decks that deserve more love. I love talking about underrated decks, specifically mass market decks. It's a subject I've talked about on my channel since I've started my channel 4 years ago. I've done many videos on the subject about tarot and oracle decks, specifically mass market, which means they're more affordable, easier to find, that are massively underrated and that are hidden gems, because I want to spread the love. I want you to know that there's some awesome decks out there that won't cost you an arm and a leg, and because I think all of these decks have something unique to bring, and because I don't see these often mentioned in tarot videos, I don't see them a lot on social media and things like that, I like every few months or so to make a new episode of my underrated mass market tarot and oracle decks playlist. It's a series that's been going on for years, and today we're doing a new episode. Today I'll be sharing with you 4 mass market tarot decks and 2 mass market oracle decks, which in my opinion are massively underrated and yet are hidden gems. As I say in all those videos, these are but my humble opinions. So of course, you're welcome to disagree. Potentially the decks I'm gonna be sharing with you are your favorite decks, and so for you maybe they're not underrated at all. I'm just coming from a standpoint of me noticing that these decks are not being shown a lot on Instagram, shared a lot in tags, not used a lot when I'm watching other tarot readers' video and stuff like that. And so I just want to give them their moment in the light to shine and share with you why I believe all these decks definitely deserve more love. So if you're new here, hi, good luck. Be prepared for a chaotic deck goblin video, because this is how I roll. In the description box you're gonna find all the names of the decks I'm mentioning today. Just in case my froggy French accent gets in the way, I'll be putting names. If I have time, I'll also put links for the decks I'm mentioning today, so you can check that out. You will also find in the description box the playlist where I've put all of my previous underrated mass market hidden gems video. What else is in the description box? I think that's it. Oh yeah, my other social media links. That's it. If you want to hang out, I mostly hang out on Instagram and YouTube at the moment, so if you want to spend time together, that's where I will be. I've got my cup of rooibos tea, which I've brought back from South Africa, and you guys, I'm obsessed with rooibos tea. It's so delicious. I've just had a little bit of Turkish delight, which I'm also obsessed with, and I'm about to talk about one of my favorite subjects that I like to talk about. So honestly, life is good. Without further ado, let's get into this little new episode of mass market tarot and oracle decks that, in my opinion, deserve more love. Is there any rooibos tea lovers out there? Let me know, because honestly, I've brought back like 200 tea bags from South Africa. I'm obsessed with this stuff. And yeah, let me know if you guys enjoy this one as well. Let's start with tarot. My first pick for this little episode of underrated mass market tarot and oracle deck. Honestly, a pure gem, in my opinion, one that really deserves more love. This is the Dame Fortune Wheels Tarot. This is by Paul Husson, and this is a deck that was originally published by Los Scarabeo. Now, this is how the deck comes. You can get it in the top box. However, there is also a book that comes separately with it if you want to purchase it, which is called The Pictorial Key to the Dame Fortune Wheels Tarot. I don't have the paper version of this book. At the time, I could get my hands on an ebook version. I don't know if that's still the case or not. I don't know if you can still get the digital version of the book. I know you can definitely still get the paper version of the book, but for me it's easier where I live to get digital files, because shipping and everything, it's a whole thing. So there's another separate book which is super awesome, but you don't have to have the separate book to enjoy this deck, because in the top box you do have a little white booklet, and as always per Los Scarabeo you have it in different languages. For English you get about this amount of pages, and Paul Husson, if you're not aware, he's a prolific author and tarot writer. He has done Mystical Origins of the Tarot, which is also really interesting. Definitely a very prolific tarot writer, tarot teacher, someone who has studied tarot a lot and who has decided to create this particular rendition. And the particularity of this deck, which has been out, I think, since like 2005 or 2007. It's been out for a while. Yeah, I think the first one was 2007 7. So here are the backs. So the particularity of this deck and what makes it super awesome in my personal opinion is that this is a hybrid, and it's a hybrid that was created mixing traditional historical French and Italian deck, amongst which the Tarot de Marseille, and you'll see that mostly in the majors. And then the minors are very unique because they're actually inspired by the Eteia Tarot, or Le Tarot d'Eteia, which originally was the very first tarot published with divination in mind. And so Le Grand Eteia is this one. You guys in English might know it as the Egyptian Gypsies Tarot. In French we call it Le Grand Eteia. It was created in the late 1700s by Jean-Baptiste Alliette, also known as Eteia. And so his creation, this one, from the late 1700s, was the very first tarot that was conceived for divination. Up until Eteia or Jean-Baptiste Alliette, tarot was used across Europe for playing games mostly, not necessarily for divination. For divination, people would use playing cards. So this particular tarot is actually a creation from Paul Husson, combining the knowledge from Tarot de Marseille, amongst which you will see here, for example, some influence from different traditional historical tarot, not just Tarot de Marseille, but also Italian ones. And then the minors are heavily influenced by Le Grand Eteia. And so it makes this a very interesting and unique take on tarot, because this is not just your stereotypical Marseille or your stereotypical pip decks. It's actually drawing inspiration from way before, from the original tarot deck, the original divination system, which I know, at least in English-speaking places, is not that well used or not that well known, Le Grand Eteia, because unfortunately most of the text available on this is in French, and not just that, it's in older French. So if you are a non-French speaker, it's very hard to use this system. I do believe that Benebel Wen is working on translating that. I might be wrong, but I feel like I've read a blog post of hers about that. And you can get, obviously, Le Grand Eteia in English. It will come with a little bit of a white book, but you won't get the full extent of all the books that were written by Jean-Baptiste Alliette, who at the time was a very prolific writer. So this Dame Fortune Wheels is actually a really cool hybrid. If you want to get a deck that will stretch your comfort zone a little bit, but that will still draw inspiration from very esoteric and traditional tarot tradition. On top of that, can we talk about how beautiful this is? It's a lot of primary colors, and it's absolutely beautiful. You can see here the inspiration as well from some old playing cards, like Italian playing cards, Spanish playing cards even, with the addition of the little acorns, which was very popular in playing cards back in the day. Beautiful, honestly, renditions. It's giving this medieval feel. And whilst this could feel a little bit daunting because you're thinking, well, this is a new system, how am I going to be able to use it? This is super intuitive, you guys. You don't have to necessarily be familiar with either of those systems it's inspired by to enjoy this deck, because it's fully illustrated. As you can see, the pips are actually illustrated and beautifully at that. And on top of that, like I was saying at the beginning of the video, you do have a book that comes with this. Like I said, I've got mine on Kindle at the time. I could get it on Kindle. I don't know if it's still available on Kindle, but I know it's still definitely available as paper form, and the book is fantastic. Also helps you to get a little bit of more of an understanding as to why this deck was created. This is honestly a gem. If you want something that's gonna push you outside of your comfort zone a little bit, but you still want something that's still rooted in history and in tarot tradition, I can't recommend this enough. As you will see, the court cards are also inspired by traditional playing cards, as we have the name that came on a lot of the traditional playing cards. We have Lancelot, for example. Let's find others. We have Palace for the Queen of Swords, which we are used to seeing on traditional playing cards. One last thing that I think makes this deck really special and great is that you have a significator card. If you enjoy looking at spreads that were used with tarot in the 1800s, 1900s, usually you will see that they use a significator card, and this one is particularly beautiful. So really intuitive. Like I said, you don't have to go on an epic study to use this, but of course, if you enjoy a deck study, there's plenty there to get into, because not only will it make you a little bit more accustomed with traditional Tarot de Marseille and historical decks, it will also get you a glimpse into Le Grand Eteia. Definitely the deck that I really enjoy in my personal practice, and that I think deserves a lot more love. So that's the Dame's Fortune Wheel Tarot. Let's continue with a tarot deck that is much more modern, and that I think is still quite underrated, that I feel like definitely deserves more love. That is the traditional manga tarot, again by Los Scarabeo. There's quite a few manga tarots out there now. I mean, we are quite blessed for choice. There's some indie decks out there. There are some mass market decks out there. Some of the more popular manga tarot decks I've seen. I know that there's a couple from Llewellyn and they come with a bigger guidebook. Maybe that's why this one is not as popular, because in Los Scarabeo fashion it only comes with one of those little guidebooks in several languages. However, I wanted to share it with you guys today because for me it's actually a great deck for autumn and fall vibes specifically, and because a lot of you guys watching me are in the northern hemisphere and you're in that time period right now of like fall, autumn, and you know, all of those beautiful brown kind of colors and fallen leaves and cozy vibes and chai lattes. This is very that. I wanted to share it with you guys because it's one I, again, don't see enough of, and I thought it deserved a bit of time in the spotlight. So here are the backs, which I think are really gorgeous. And as the name suggests, traditional manga tarot. This is a manga-inspired tarot deck. This is fully illustrated. If I forgot to say, it's not AI or anything. It's hand-drawn by this person who, I won't try and pronounce the name because I don't want to butcher that, but there you go. It's fully illustrated. Reason why I wanted to share it with you guys is because the colors are giving very much fall vibes, cozy vibes. There's a lot of like browns and oranges and jewel tones, which for me make me think of autumn. I don't know why, but it's giving a little bit of that cozy autumn vibe. Like you could very much envision me by a roaring fire, drinking a chai latte and enjoying this beautiful artwork. It's definitely giving more of that autumnal cozy vibe with gorgeous manga inspired artwork. Look at this chariot with those two lions. It's beautiful. So this is a deck I really don't see used enough, and I feel like it's because there are probably too many manga tarot decks out there. We are a little bit spoiled for choice, I guess. And that means that sometimes some of them can go a bit under the radar. Like I said, I know the other popular manga tarot decks have bigger guidebook, they come in bigger boxes, so maybe that's why we're more familiar with them. But this one is very nice, and the choices of each depiction is awesome. It's an RWS inspired with a little bit of fantasy. I mean, look at this desk. Isn't it beautiful? Even her familiars are a little skeleton. It's giving this necromancer vibe. It's really beautiful. I used this one recently in a pick a card and you guys really enjoyed it, so I wanted to properly reintroduce it on my channel because I've not talked about it in a while, and I actually used it in my rest of 2024 tarot reading. So if you've not watched that, I'll make sure to leave it in the cards. I actually had done 4 piles for that reading, and this was one of the options, and you guys really enjoyed it, and I did too. I love reading with this deck. So you can see, right, all these orangey brown tones. This is very beautiful autumn deck for me, and I don't even live somewhere that has autumn. I live on a tropical island where it's pretty much summer all year long. So I'm kind of jealous for this autumn fantasy, and it's often through my decks that I live my little autumn fantasy or winter fantasy, because if I look at the window, the vibe is definitely more mosquitoes and coconut trees. So I live my fantasy through my decks. So this is another deck that I think definitely deserves more love. I mean, look at this hermit. Let's move on to an oracle deck to break it up a little bit. Still mass market, because it's the theme of today's video. All the decks I'm sharing with you are mass market, meaning you should be able to find them on Amazon or wherever you guys shop for mass market decks, or you can order them through your like local bookshops. They should be more affordable and easier to find than indie decks. That's the aim of this video. So one oracle deck that I feel is very underrated and that definitely deserves more love is in French called L'Oracle des Cristaux Éternels by Jade Sky, and this exists in English, and in English it's called The Eternal Crystal Oracle, also by Jade Sky. I believe the English box looks very similar. It just so happened that I have the French version because guess what? I'm French. So that's why. But yeah, you can get this in English, and I'll make sure to leave the name of it in the description box. This, as the name suggests, Eternal Crystal Oracle, is a crystal deck. And yes, I know the backs are not giving, I agree with you. It's not the prettiest crystal oracle out there. There's definitely prettier oracles that talk about crystal, but this was one of the first one because this has been out for a while and it's a really good workable deck. So I wanted to mention in the French version, the edges are silver. I'm not sure what they look like in English. There are plenty of crystal oracle decks out there, indie ones, mass market ones. This is another subject that we are definitely spoiled for choice with. This is one of my favorite, first of all because it was my first crystal deck, because this has been out for years. And the other thing that makes this deck really special is that it's actually, as you can see, a close-up. Like, we have an image of the crystal in the middle, but we also have the big close-up here, and within the close-up you will see that hidden in the background there are images that help you understand what this crystal is about. And as you can see from my background, and if you watch my other videos, you know I'm a huge crystal bitch. I love it. I love me some crystals. I love meditating with them. I love carrying them on me. I love wearing them as jewelry. I love having them around. They just are spiritual tools for me. And this is a deck I've worked with for years religiously. Like, this has been used and used and used, and yet I've not really spoken about it on my channel that much, and I thought, you know what, I need to bring this out because more people need to know about this. Like I was saying, not only do you have the image of the crystal and then a close-up of it, you will have one keyword and a chakra. So for example, for rose quartz, which by the way, look at this gorgeous rose quartz bowl I got recently. I'm obsessed with it. It's beautiful. So for rose quartz, we have love and we have the heart chakra. And as you can see, you've got rose quartz, but then on top of it, you have an insert of some heart. So it gives you an indication as to what this is. For the rutilated quartz, the keyword is home and the chakra is roots. And here, potentially you can see in the background, there's a door. So intuitively, there's a lot you can get from that. For ruby, we have passion, and the chakras are sacral and roots. Labradorite, psychic capabilities, and we have third eye chakra. And actually, if you look in the back, you have the third eye chakra symbol on top of the labradorite image. I think it's super beginner friendly, even if you don't have any crystals, but you're just curious about them and you want to figure out, would I like working with crystals or not? This is great. It will help you understand a little bit about the different crystals available, how they work in relation to different chakras. It will also potentially help you to decide if you want to get that crystal or not, because let's say you're pulling a card repeatedly, let's say you're always pulling the tiger eye, for example, maybe eventually it will make you want to invest in like a little tiger eye piece or a tumblestone or a little bracelet. There's plenty of ways you can work with this deck. For me, I've noticed that this is a great one to actually clarify your reading. Every time I've used this for people I know and we finished the reading with one card, they always like to have a crystal card at the end, because even if they're not familiar with crystal, it just gives them a little hint as to which crystal they could be wearing or that could match with their vibration. And the fact that this is also linked with chakras, it's also really helpful if you are into meditation or anything like that, to figure out on which chakra you need to be working on. And obviously, because each card is really related to a keyword, which is then explained in the guidebook, this is also great for daily readings, daily card pull, and like I was saying, clarifying a tarot reading. So the guidebook in the French version looks like this. For each of the cards, you have about a page for the messages. It's simple, straight to the point, but it works. I've had this deck for years, and I've had other crystal decks, and they never compared to this one, so I ended up rehoming them. And this is one of two that I've kept only on crystal, because this one I realized was my first and is still to this day one of the best. So this is why I wanted to share it with you today. Plus, I think it looks really pretty. An oldie but a goodie. Definitely really accessible in the sense of, if you've never worked with crystals, this will hold your hand. For me, it's a really versatile deck mixing chakras, crystals, and guidance as well. Let's go back to tarot, because this is definitely a tarot deck that deserves way more love. I never see this deck again being used online and stuff like that. And there's actually a good reason for it, because the English version of this deck is out of print and quite hard to find, and it is this one. So this one, in French, it is called Le Tarot du Voyage Lumineux. As you can see, it comes in a huge box. It's by Jessica Aller, and you guys had it in English mass market, and at the time it was called the Vivid Journey Tarot. However, sadly, the English version of this tarot deck is out of print and it's quite hard to find, I've been told. So that's definitely why I think this deck is not shown around, because now the English version is hard to find. However, the French version is very readily available. You can get it on Amazon.fr. Comes with a huge guidebook, which really full of information, full colors. You've got about 2 pages for each of the cards. Of course, you could use Google Translate to use this. Obviously, this follows quite closely the RWS, so if you're familiar with that system, even if you don't want to be translating the guidebook, you would have no problem using this deck. And that's why I wanted to share it with you today, because it's gorgeous and it deserves more love. So here are the backs. And this is a deck I've been eyeing for years. And then this year I finally decided to purchase it mass market in French, because I was like, you know what, it's time. Like, something about these bright colors are calling me when it was the start of the year, and I've been using it ever since and loving it ever since. So it's easily found on Amazon, it's easily found on Lyrica, which also stocks mass market French decks. And because this is a very close follow-up to the RWS, I really wanted to share it with you guys, because I know so many of you would enjoy this one. And even though the titles are in French, you can easily see that this is the Six of Wands, I think. You can easily see this is the Ace of Pentacles. As long as you're a little bit familiar with the RWS, you'll have no problem picking this up and reading it off the box. What I love about these decks are the bright colors. They're so enchanting. It's quite limited in the color palette. It's mostly primary colors with some green and purple, and yet there's something so charming and enchanting about the art style. Like, look at this Two of Cups. It reminds me of books from my childhood. It gives a little bit of fairy tale vibes almost, whilst it's still quite rooted in the day-to-day. There's definitely something a little magical and whimsical about this, which I think is so charming. I wanted to make sure I could mention it to you guys, because I know that this would be up so many of you guys' alley. Just because the mass market version in English is gone out of print, it doesn't mean you can't get your hands on this one, because it's still very much in print in French. And look at this, so beautiful. I really like the people's expression. I love their clothes. All the pages you've seen, they've got like little flowy robes, which is so cute. And yeah, this is absolutely gorgeous. I've used this deck for myself a lot this year, and I don't think I've actually used it for you guys in a pick a card reading, so I need to remedy that. I need to use it for you guys, bring it out as an option, because I know a lot of you will enjoy it. Look at this Knight of Wands. Even the horse is on fire. That's beautiful. This is also a very beautiful deck for anyone who is a little bit afraid of the occult or the esoteric. In that sense, it's very different from the Dame Fortune Wheels Tarot, which is very rooted in esoteric symbolism and tarot history. This is definitely a more fluid and intuitive approach to tarot, where you are invited to follow and trust your intuition. You're invited to follow and trust your emotions. The guidebook really reinforces this idea that you're invited to make tarot your own, you're invited to make your own meanings. It's a very empowering way to look at tarot. I really enjoyed it. I actually found out the person who created this deck actually created this deck as a way for them to learn tarot, and you can tell that this is a very beginner friendly deck, and that it's a deck that really invites you to trust your creativity, your intuition, your inner little voice, without constraining you to predetermined meanings. And I really like that. I think they've done a really beautiful job. And look at this Sun card. I mean, come on, it's so beautiful. I would say great for people who don't want anything occult or esoteric, but who still want to learn how to read tarot. I love this Fool card, because this dog looks like my dog. So makes me super happy. And it also a great one I could see myself gifting to someone who wants to learn tarot. Because I think it's quite attractive and cute and nice and friendly. Even if I was to gift a deck to potentially someone a little bit younger, you know, like teenagers or something, I think this could be a great option, because it does a great job at introducing you to tarot without overwhelming you with too many symbolism or anything like that. So, and yeah, I love the pages in this deck. They're so cute. We have 2 more decks in today's video. Hopefully there'll still be something fun for you guys to discover or rediscover. Maybe those are decks that you have and you enjoy, or maybe some of them you forgot you had, and it's gonna give you the impulse to bring them back out, or maybe you discover some new ones. You can let me know in the comments anyway. I always enjoy reading you, and I try to respond to all of my comments because I love chatting with you guys. But let's go back to another oracle deck by a French creator. This is l'Oracle Inspiré by Émilie Dedieu. You will have seen me talk about this deck quite a lot in my recent videos. Ever since I've gotten this back in August, I've been blabbering on about this, so it's definitely not an underrated deck on my channel because I'm talking about it all the time. But I don't see this deck spoken a lot about elsewhere that much, and so I just wanted to make sure that I could give it some time in the spotlight again today. The reason why I really wanted to introduce it in today's video is because while this is a French deck by a French creator, meaning that you will find it on Amazon.fr or again Lyrica, websites like that, this is actually a deck without any keywords, so which is why I think it is super suited to all of you out there. Even if you don't speak a word of French, it doesn't matter, because this is a deck that you're supposed to make your own. The name of it, l'Oracle Inspiré, translates to the inspired oracle, and that is because all the cards, like I was saying, don't have any keywords. There is a small guidebook which is in French, and in the guidebook the artist Emily gives you suggestions of keywords you could associate with each of the cards, but she really emphasizes that this is a deck that you're supposed to make your own, that you're supposed to associate your own meaning with, and that you're supposed to really let your inspiration create your own connection with, which is why there's no keyword. And she even invites you in the guidebook to write your own keywords on the card, because the paper that this is a kind of paper that would definitely take ink well. So if you wanted to write your own meanings on the card, you totally could. I haven't personally, because I love the idea of pulling a card and the meaning changing depending on the day. Like maybe one day this is gonna mean breath work or meditation to me, maybe one day it's gonna mean I need to pray, and maybe one day it's gonna mean that I need some time out or to like take some time to ground. Depending on my question, depending on the day, each card might mean something slightly different. So this is why I've not put any keywords for my own copy, because I like to let my intuition do its thing, but you totally could if you wanted that structure. What I think is awesome is that anyone could use this, because you're not restricted by language here. You're invited to make this deck your own, and the great thing about this is that this is originally meant to be a divinatory deck, meaning that you could do prediction with this and look at timings. I don't know if you saw, we have like winter, we've had an autumn card, there's a spring card, etc. You can use this for dating things, you can use this for predictive readings, looking at your week ahead, months ahead, what's gonna happen at work, what's gonna happen at this job interview, what's gonna happen on my friend date, all of those things. You could use this for personal development, guidance, whatever you want. The world is your oyster with this deck. You're meant to make it your own. Personally, I've loved using it for predictive reading. I think it's really cool, and I really love this artist style. I love the watercolors with the golden accent. This is how I've personally enjoyed using it for week ahead reading, months ahead reading, day-to-day questions about relatable, practical day-to-day things. If you wanted to use this in a more spiritual way, you could. Really, here the beauty is that you make this your own, and this is why I wanted to introduce it to you guys today, because I feel like it could be one that a lot of you enjoy, and that whilst it's a French deck, I don't see how anyone could be blocked by the language here, because there's no wording on the cards. The guidebook is small, but it's interesting. You definitely have a lot of spreads, which is awesome. There's always tons of spreads with Emily's deck, so we love that. And you do have a couple of sentences for each of the cards in case you wanted a bit of inspiration as to what they could mean, and you even have some associations as well, much like Lenormand, for example, where this card plus this card equal this, for example, which again are just suggestions, right? Suggestions of interpretation. The way that this is written is really an invitation to make this deck your own, and I personally love that. So I wanted to mention it again in this video, because for me it's absolutely a hidden gem of a mass market deck, and it's truly a deck that deserves more love. That being said, if you watch my monthly reading, you will have seen it in use, and of course you bet I'm gonna be using it again in future monthly reading, because for predictive guidance and stuff like that, it is awesome. Okay, let's wrap it up with our last tarot deck, which is another hugely underrated deck in my opinion. This is probably one of the most beautiful decks I own, and yet sadly it's one I really don't see talked about very often, so we're here to remedy that. This is the Russian Tarot of St. Petersburg by Yuri Shakov. This is a US game tarot deck and it is so special, so let me get into it. This is a very unique deck that has a lot of history, which is why it's super special and why I think a lot of you will enjoy it. Because as the name suggests, the Russian Tarot of St. Petersburg, this is by a Russian artist, Yuri Shakov, and this is actually a deck that is created with a specific art style in mind, which is called the art of Russian miniature. And you guys would be familiar with this kind of art style from like Fabergé eggs and very tiny paintings that come from Russia, where everything is super detailed, super small. And so this deck is by one such artist, Yuri Shakov. It was his final commission work, so he sadly passed away just, I believe, at the end of this deck being ready to be printed. I had to zoom you in because this one is so special. You had to really get up in. So like I was saying, this was the final commission from Yuri Shakov. Sadly, he passed away just as this deck was ready to be published, I believe. And why is this so special is that this tarot deck was actually painted to size, meaning that what you see on the card is actually the size of the painting that Yuri would be working on. I'm sure you guys can see right now how detailed every single thing is, meaning that all of his paintings were already the size of tarot cards, and meaning that every single detail here was done to size. And so they explain in the guidebook that this art of miniature painting, it's so detailed, it takes so much time that sometimes the paintbrush they use has one single hair on it in order to get all the little details. Look at the amount of details. Look at the dress on the Empress. Look at her little shoes. Look at all the facial expression. Look at the detail on her headdress. This was all done to actual tarot size. Can you imagine painting with paintbrush that have one single hair on it? Can you imagine the patience it would take to achieve this level of detail, to achieve this level of facial expression and this level of richness? Not only do you have the beautiful figures in the middle, you also always have things in the background. This is such a detailed artwork that the artists who are specialized in this kind of art are actually having to rely their wrists on some kind of braces so they won't shake, and so they can stand in those braces for hours and hours. It's a very physically exhausting type of painting and artwork. It's physically demanding, as you can imagine, because you really can't be shaking, it's so small. It's super detailed, so it takes years for someone to master this kind of artwork. And the person who created this, Yuri, was definitely one of the most well-known and beloved artists in this art style. And you can see, my god, the beauty, you guys. This is absolutely gorgeous, and I'm really sad I don't see more people talk about this, because I think if you're a tarot lover like me, this is a piece of history. Right now it's still in print. I honestly don't know for how long, because I don't see this deck being used very often, and I'm worried that they'll end up taking it away and making it out of print. They also had to use magnifying glass for painting, as you can imagine, so it took years for this tarot deck to be created, and sadly the creator passed away, I think, just at the time that this was going to be published. I read online actually that they might not even have finished a couple of cards, and so they had to commission one of their colleagues to finish the deck. I'm not sure if that's true. I read that online, but that's not mentioned in the guidebook, so I don't know if that's true or not. But in the guidebook they definitely say that this was this artist's last commission work. It's sad when you think they didn't get to see this being put out in the world, because it's honestly a beautiful, gorgeous deck. And as a tarot deck, it reads beautifully. I've put it back in order because I wanted you guys to enjoy all the details and stuff, but I've definitely been using this deck for readings. If you're familiar again with the RWS, you wouldn't have any problem reading with this. It's really gorgeous. It's really special. And I wish more people knew about it. So that's me spreading the gospel today and telling you guys you need to check this out. If you are history lovers, if you're art history lovers on top of that, there's this is very unique, I think. The idea of someone spending hours and hours, days, months, years even, creating this two size, I mean, it blows me away. And I feel really grateful that I own this deck, that this deck is out there, that we can enjoy this kind of dedication, this kind of hard work, and this kind of passion. Let's look at some cups, just so you guys can see a little bit different part of the decks. I mean, look at this page of cups. Look at the jacket and the background, little town. I mean, I can barely draw stick figures, so seeing this, I'm blown away. Every time I use this deck, I'm truly blown away by just its beauty. And that's what I was saying. This is potentially one of the most beautiful decks that I own, and that's coming from someone who has like over 200 decks by now. Even the backs, look at those backs, they're so beautiful. I should really edge my copy in gold, it's begging for it, but I can't even get that mad getting the 5 of coins, even though it's definitely like one of my least favorite cards to get in a reading. I can't even be mad I'm getting that card when it looks that beautiful. There you go, this was my newest episode of my underrated mass market tarot and oracle deck. I hope you enjoyed taking this little walk with me, looking at some tarot and oracle decks that I believe deserve way more love than they get. And now it's your time. Let me know in the comments what are the tarot and oracle decks mass market that you believe deserve more love, that you believe are hidden gems, that you believe are underrated. I love to hear from you guys. I love to hear your thoughts. I love to read you, and I respond to all of my comments, so it's always a pleasure to chat. Until my next video, I hope you're all doing good. I hope you're taking good care of yourself. I'm sending you so much good vibes, and keep navigating the waves of your soul. Bye!